The title of this video is Christ re-sacrificed in every Catholic Mass? And does Scripture mention Catholic priests? So we look first at what the Reformers thought about Catholic Mass. So they deny that the Mass is a sacrifice. For example, here Luther wrote that Christ sacrificed himself only once, and he quote from Hebrew, and he will not be sacrificed by anyone else. And he wrote that Christ wants us only to remember his sacrifice. And another reformer, John Calvin, wrote, if Christ is sacrificed at each Mass, then he must be cruelly slain every moment in 1,000 places. In contrast, until today, the Catholic Church teaches that the Mass is a sacrifice. Yeah? For example, if you look at the Catechism, clause 1367, it says, the sacrifice of Christ and the sacrifice of the Eucharist are one single sacrifice. So it means the victim is one and the same. The same now offered through the ministry of priests, who then offered himself, that is Christ, on the cross. Only the manner of offering is different. The difference is Christ, who offered himself once in a bloody manner on the cross, is offered in an unbloody manner. So how to explain to non-Catholics that sacrifice Christ made on the cross almost 2,000 years ago and sacrifice of the Mass are one single sacrifice, or we do not re-sacrifice Christ in every Mass? If you look at the Scripture, while Christ offered himself as sacrifice on the cross, Scripture also refers him as Lamb slain from the foundation or beginning of the world. Revelation 13:8. So the Greek word slain is verb participle in passive perfect tense. A verb participle is a verb turned into noun. So what is the implication of a passive perfect tense? So if you look at what Greek New Testament scholar Mons wrote, the Greek perfect is one of the more interesting tenses and is often used to express Greek theological truth. The Greek perfect describes an action that was brought to completion and whose effects are felt in the present. Because it describes a completed action, by implication, the action described by the perfect verb normally occurred in the past. So we look at some examples of the use of passive perfect tense from New Testament. In Matthew 28:18, Jesus said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. And then the last word of Jesus on the cross, according to Gospel of John, is it is finished. Here, the English translation is written as a passive present tense, but if you look at the Greek text, it is written as a passive perfect tense. The other example is it is written. Again, this one in Greek is in passive perfect tense and appear in many places in New Testament and refers to Scripture. So every time we buy a new Bible, the same Scripture is reprinted again in any language, but it is not rewritten. So Scripture was completely written in the past and it remains written ever since. So the next question is how to relate Christ as the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world with his crucifixion 2,000 years ago. So again, we look at the Scripture at Hebrews 9, verse 24 to 26. For Christ has entered not into holy places made with hands, which are copies of the two things, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God on our behalf. Nor was it to offer himself repeatedly, as the high priest enters the holy places every year with blood not his own. For then he would have had to suffer repeatedly since the foundation of the world. But as it is, he has appeared once for all at the end of the ages to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. So, if Christ did not offer himself in heaven, then he must suffer and offer himself every year, like the Old Testament high priest. Interestingly, not from the year he was crucified, but from the foundation of the world. And then it says, Christ has appeared in active perfect tense once for all at the end of the ages to put away sin. And this refers to his crucifixion when his blood was shed. So as a lamb, Christ was slain at the foundation of the world and remains slain ever since, based on the perfect tense of the verb slain. So Christ is not slain many times, but only once, before the foundation of the world. His blood was then not shed, as the incarnation didn't take place. And crucifixion is the appearance of slain from the foundation of the world, when his blood was shed once for all. So this explains why first Catholics believe the Last Supper of the first three Gospels was the first Mass, even though Christ was not yet crucified. And the same sacrifice on the cross can be made present in every Mass in unbloody manner. So Christ is not re-sacrificed in every Mass, just like Scripture is not rewritten when one buys a new Bible, reprinted again and again in any language. To offer the same sacrifice, we need the ministry of priests, and this leads to another issue contested by the Reformers. So, because the Reformers reject the sacrifice of the Mass, they must also reject the priests. For example, here Luther wrote that the visible priests of the Catholic Church came from the devil and human lies. And he insists that we have only one single priest, that is Christ. Of course, Luther also recognized the common priesthood of all Christians. So we are all priests with Christ. But he insists that we need no priest or mediator other than Christ. Another reformer, John Calvin, wrote that Catholics cannot produce one iota of Scripture to support our priesthood. If you look in the New Testament, we find among believers presbyter, or Greek presbyteros, bishop, Greek episkopos, and deacon, Greek diakonos. It does mention priesthood, or Greek hierotheuma, of Christ and of all believers, but no mention of other priests, or Greek hieros and Hebrew kohen. A priest is a person appointed on behalf of others to give offering and sacrifice for sins to God. But while New Testament does not apply the title priest to any believer, we have dual prophecies of Jeremiah in the Old Testament. Jeremiah 33, verse 17-18. For thus says the Lord, David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne of the house of Israel, and the Levitical priests shall never lack a man in my presence to offer burnt offerings, to burn grain offerings, and to make sacrifices forever. So Old Testament has general priesthood as well as a Levitical priesthood comprising of priests and Levites. So when Jeremiah was given these dual prophecies, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, already took Jeconiah, the king of Judah, into exile, and he placed his uncle Zedekiah as king of Judah. Zedekiah later rebelled, and in around 586 BC, Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Jerusalem temple built by the Solomon. And we know after 70 years, the temple was rebuilt. And this means that the Levitical priests were able to resume their duties. But there were no Davidic king. So Zedekiah is the last Davidic king in Old Testament. Even the second temple was destroyed by the Romans in around 70 AD and is never rebuilt to this day. And without the temple, the sacrificial system of Judaism came to an end, or their priests can no longer offer any sacrifice. If you look at the prophecies in Jeremiah again, so the first part was fulfilled in Jesus, who became Davidic king at his incarnation. And for Catholics, the second part is fulfilled in ministerial priesthood of the Catholic Church. Of course, priests without sacrifice are not priests. Even the prophecy says that they are going to make sacrifice forever. So hence, their sacrificial duty is to make present the same sacrifice made on the cross, not repeating it. And this is possible because Christ, slain from the foundation of the world, remains slain ever since. And his sacrifice has appeared once for all in crucifixion. Because most of Catholic priests are not Jewish, but according to prophecy in Isaiah, God will take from all nations as priests and Levites, or they no longer have to be Jewish. The deacons are the Levites. And Catholics also believe in the priesthood of Christ and all baptized Catholic. For example, we look at clause 1545. It says only Christ is the true priest. The others, means Catholic priests, being only his ministers. So why Christ is the true priest? Because he is the only one who offered himself to God. And then clause 1268 says that the baptized have become a holy priesthood. So if we compare the Old Covenant of Moses and the New Covenant of Christ, in the Old Covenant we have high priests, plural, more than one, and they belong to the tribe of Levi, of the order of Aaron. And every year, on the Day of Atonement or Yom Kippur, the high priest offered blood atonement, which is not his own blood, and in man-made earthly sanctuary. On the other hand, the high priest of the New Covenant, we have only one, that is Jesus Christ, of the tribe of Judah, and of the order of Melchizedek. And he was slain from the foundation of the world and offered himself once in heavenly sanctuary. And his being slain has appeared in crucifixion when his own blood was then shed once for all. The Old Covenant has also priests who are male descendants of Aaron, and they offer animal sacrifices. There are many of them. You can read in the book of Leviticus, including the Passover lambs, so plural. Every year they must offer not just one, but many. And they also offer the other offerings to God. There are many types like cereal, flour, cakes of bread, wine. And the priests of the New Covenant prophesied in Jeremiah. They are males from all nations, prophesied in Isaiah. And they make present Christ's single sacrifice on the cross, who is also Passover lamb, There's only one lamb, that is Christ. They also offer believers offering to God in the form of collection during the Sunday Masses. And the Old Covenant also has general priesthood. Example is Gideon. The New Covenant has also general priesthood of all believers. But they do not offer animal sacrifice anymore, but they offer their living bodies and praise as sacrifices. And last but not least, why do Catholic churches have crucifixes and not empty crosses? So we look at 1 Corinthians 1:23, Paul wrote that we preach Christ crucified. So Paul did not write we preach Christ risen. And the Greek word for crucified is in passive perfect tense. You compare it with the Greek word for appear in Hebrew 9:26 is in active perfect tense. And we know the implication of the Greek perfect tense. And this explains why Catholic churches have crucifixes, not empty crosses. So thank you for listening. Until the next video.